Hello, this is Squadaland, and welcome to Planet Coaster 2. The nice big reveal there. Yeah, so obviously this is something a little different than I usually post, but that's just because I haven't really had an opportunity to post about theme park stuff, because I know I've kind of gained traction as a sort of Mario Kart modder among game stuff, but honestly, I'm probably even more into theme parks and amusement parks and roller coasters than I am video games. Uh, Maybe they're a little even. But so yeah, stuff like Planet Coaster 2 is right up my alley. Um, so yeah, I just thought I'd share what I had done. Well, I wanted to share what I had done in the first week I had with the game, but with the long laundry list of issues I have with this game, one of them is that I couldn't toggle the weather in sandbox mode, and it decided to rain basically the entire second in-game day I was playing this. I just realized you can't see my cursor. Let me fix that. All right, there. Now we should have a cursor. So yeah, it rained the entire second in-game day, and I play mostly on pause when I'm building stuff. Uh, so yeah, I couldn't actually record it because it would look like shit. And there's no way to toggle weather in sandbox mode, as I said. This actually started as a franchise mode park, but I kind of quickly realized that that sucked because the management in this game is fucking terrible and a miserable experience. And I would say if you want to get this game for the management side of it, don't, and get Parkitect instead, at least at this point, which we'll kind of get into a lot of the reasons why I hated that. But yeah, I just figured I'd share what I'd done the first week here and kind of do regular progress reports here on my first park, Squadaland. That's a tentative working title, which is sort of a different project than you see, I think, most people posting with Planet Coaster. And it's different, very different than what I usually work on in this game, which is very themed experiences. I didn't want to jump directly into a themed experience because I wanted to get used to the controls, so I decided to work instead on something that I'm kind of calling my ode to the American amusement park. More specifically, kind of like Six Flags and Cedar Fair parks. Warts and all is kind of what I'm going with. So basically, the idea of this park is that it probably opened, I don't know, maybe sometime in the late 60s, mid 70s, that sort of range, as a somewhat themed, but not overly themed, I don't know, park. And then over time, it went through some ownership changes in the 90s to mid 2000s. You kind of had their big corporate owner take over and just kind of install thrill rides that didn't really make sense for the park and strip back some of the theming. And then, sort of over the last, I don't know, maybe decade and a half of the park, some other owners came in and kind of started adding some of the theming back into the park. And so you kind of end up with this weird mix of. Basically, I wanted the park to feel like it had a history, and that history wasn't always kind to it. So we'll go ahead and we'll start just walking around what I've got so far here. I wanted an entryway where these buses kind of made sense, so I kind of have a curb that they pulled up to. This took me, I'm not kidding you, a fucking hour and a half to do because the pathing tools in this game are, let's say, a mixed bag in that they are far more capable than they were in previous Planet Coaster, but they also are a pain in the fucking ass to work with and learn. And you have to do a lot of manual editing, and I didn't really have a grasp on it, so I had to remake this entryway like 26 times. But anyways, let's go ahead and get in there. First person here. And so we have a very simple entryway, which kind of... I was using my reference point of Carowinds, because I went to Carowinds down on the North-South Carolina border earlier this year for the first time. And so I'm kind of going with a style that I want to call inoffensive, which is kind of what that park is, and I would also kind of call new Epcot at Disney World the new entryway, or the new, like, their World Celebration, whatever they call the entry plaza now instead of the Future World, the central area. I would kind of call it the same style, and I wouldn't say I'm a fan of that style because it's kind of soulless. It's clean but soulless, would kind of be the way that I put it. So in my head canon of this park, it would kind of be. This would have been something they probably would have done in like the mid 2010s. Is redo this entryway into this area, which just looks kind of nice, but it's lacking a little bit of soul. So we'll go ahead and walk into the park. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm probably going to end up putting some gardens or a fountain in the middle here, because I feel like this area is a lot wider and emptier than I intended. Those people are walking very fast. What the fuck? Anyways, so you kind of come in here, you have the big... actually, let me turn off the UI. You kind of have the big observation tower as your sort of weenie. If you don't know what a weenie is, it's kind of a term. I think it was coined by... I don't know if it was coined by Walt Disney or Walt Disney Imagineers. Which is sort of your focal point. This big sort of thing that draws you towards it in the park. Draws you into the park. I think the term came from a, like, nice, delicious hot dog hanging from a hot dog stand or something, which is why it's a weenie. Kind of have your guest services and stuff. I'm not going super detailed in this park with a bunch of places like cast member or guests can enter and stuff. I kind of just want the shops to work easily in game, or at least I did at first. I'm kind of breaking that rule as I go. So it's not really a shop that you can enter here on the left, even though there's fake doors. It still just works like Planet Coaster shops do, where you just kind of walk up to it. And then on the right, you kind of have your first restaurant, which is a burger area. Just kind of overall, as I said, plain, clean, but soulless sort of entryway area. And then we have our tower. I'm going to walk around, walk around to the left. And so this is kind of the first stuff that I built in this game. Ignore the Skyride building. That'll be coming in a later date when I actually build the area of the park that it's going to land at. But eventually there will be a cable car acting as a sort of skyway over the middle of the park. Doesn't really have the right carriages that you would have expect in an amusement park, but whatever. Kind of have a little rock feature here with one of our first rides. But before we get to that, we get to this fucking carousel. If you haven't played Planet Coaster before, it may surprise you to learn that this carousel took me, I'm not kidding, about 4 hours to make, because... Go ahead and exit first-person mode here. These roof tiles aren't roof tiles. They're individual slats, which I had to move around, and they don't have a natural corner. So in the natural end here, you have tiny duplicated pieces, and then this thin strip that's kind of covering up what's going on here. These are just window pieces. This is actually a submarine or a water tank from the water theme up top. This is the kind of cover you'd see in an actual like amusement park. I think I was looking at a picture of Carowinds' Carousel when I made this. I went to Carowinds this year, which is why Carowinds is going to come up a lot, even though honestly I don't like that park a whole lot. Because its ride selection beyond the top 4 coasters kind of sucks. But it's kind of an inspiration for this park, because it's a park where you can walk around and you can tell that it's gone through a lot of changes over the years with changes in ownership and stuff. But this actually is a blueprint on the workshop now, which has actually been pretty well rated. I did notice, though, I may have to update it because you can kind of see there's some pieces, because I didn't really look at it from this angle, that are sticking through the roof. And I also included a bunch of these flowers in the queue line and exit path. Alright. I was hoping that would actually... Oh, it did open it over here. Somebody go fix that, please. Thank you, janitor. Anyways, So I kind of I threw this on the workshop because this is kind of a very standard thing, but I kind of need to fix it because it includes this exit path, this queue line, and the flowers around it, which I realize people wouldn't necessarily want. Okay, apparently every toilet in the park has just gotten dirty at the same time. I decided, as I said, I started this park in franchise mode, and I very quickly realized the management sucks because this is actually one of the rides that convinced me to switch to sandbox mode because I had to keep calling in. Holy shit, this game is really loud in my ear, and I can't think. Turn it down. Okay, it's not turning it down in the recording. That's good. Holy shit, what is happening? And I quite mean the whole shit part of that literally, because apparently somebody's wrecking these toilets. Well, actually, apparently a lot of the management parts of this game are broken even in sandbox mode, because I literally have staff breaks turned off, and they are still taking breaks. This game's a glitchy mess right now, kind of. But what I wanted to say was, this ride needed to be fixed by mechanics, and I sent them to fix it, and then he got stuck on the ride, and I could never get the ride fixed by any other mechanic, get the mechanic removed, get the guests off the ride until I completely bulldozed it and rebuilt it. And so yeah, I'm in sandbox mode, so the rides don't break down now because of that. Although apparently the staff still take breaks. Everything they did with the management in this side of this game is terrible, I think. There's power, which was added to the game, which just feels like busy work. The mechanics don't do fucking anything but walk around the park unless you tell them to, and then they get broke, and they don't go anywhere. Yeah, it's just a mess. And so I would highly recommend, if you want a theme park game that is all about management, go get Parkitect. Honestly, I thought it was terrible in the first Planet Coaster, but I thought I would give it a shot with this one, and it hasn't really fixed. So yeah, we have this Carousel Plaza. Over here is the first sort of land that I built, which is Kiddy Kingdom. My headcanon, I think I kind of went a little bit overboard in the theming here. This size of park wouldn't really have an area like this. But in my head, this is an area that has existed since opening day, which is very, very recently been overhauled to actually have a theme as part of whatever, as I said earlier, kind of like a new management's way of like injecting life back into the park. So we enter here, we have just a simple like sweet treat shop here on the right. I wanted to play around with the event sequencer, so we have a splash pad here in the middle, although you'll notice flickering because there's a lot of Z fighting. I didn't want to have paths that actually went through this, because the way the guests move in this game, I know for sure that they would just stroll through it as slow as possible, and it would look stupid. So I decided to just not let them go through there. Over here to the left, we have the Kingdom Railway, which doesn't really fit the Kingdom theme, but here we're kind of this is kind of going to show off some of my ode to the park, warts and all, because this is a ride that's been rethemed, and if we go into the queue, you'll kind of see the queue has more like themed structure to it. I don't know why I'm bothering to walk through the rails here, because they don't do anything. But then when you get to the station, you can tell this is like an opening day structure, because it's just a wood box with fluorescent light bulbs. And the ride kind of just has a shed along it. So yeah, it kind of doesn't really fit. It's not overly themed, but the idea is that it's a re-themed ride, and it wasn't like fully re-themed and stuff, but it's an opening day attraction. So it's still here in the Kiddy Kingdom. So it's sort of just like, again, trying to tell the park's story by just looking at it. I know it's not really going to make any sense because I'm literally having to explain it, but it's fun for me to try and build a park that is more historically accurate rather than just building the park. Or it's like a fun challenge, I should say. Eventually I'm going to be building parks that aren't like this. Here we have the windmill wheel, I think that's what I called it, yeah. Wanted to deal with some attached scenery to a ride, so I made it look like a windmill. There are sails that would have been perfect for this, but unfortunately they couldn't scale down. small enough to actually fit these wheel things, so I used this little colored drape, sort of give it a little impression. But yeah, it's a little more themed than some of the other rides in this area because I'm considering it a new ride that was added when this area was rethemed. Walk around to the right here to Princess T's Party, which is a fucking terrible name, but I didn't know what else to call it, and I didn't want to just call it the Tea Party. In my head, this is another older attraction, which was kind of just lightly rethemed. Basically, they slapped the horse on there, and they put in some colored things here, but you could tell that the wood structure is a little older. It doesn't really have the Viking sort of heavily themed nature to it, and you can tell that it has just a cattle pen queue. Making cattle pen queues in this game is such a fucking pain in the ass with the new path builder. One of the various things, again, the path builder giveth, the path builder taketh away. Kind of walk past this little area. I had to add some soda machines over here before we... I realized that I'm looking at the coaster, and I'm like, so about these soda machines. We'll get to the coaster in a sec. I've added just these very simple wooden structure things with soda machines in them because people kept wanting soda. But anyways, here we have the park. The area's probably main attraction, the Dragon Tamer. In my head, this is a thing that was not necessarily an opening day attraction because it's more like a Vekoma roller skater. Was probably added, I don't know, maybe in the 90s, but then was rethemed when this area was rethemed. It does have a standby and a premium pass queue. Not overly themed or anything. Kind of just heading through the queue here. Queue got a little too close to the ride, probably too close for safety. I added a grate, but honestly, it probably shouldn't even be this close. It should probably be a little further back. But I didn't want to build custom supports, and I wanted to keep the supports that were there, so I kind of just made it work. Head on through the queue here. I'm just going to cut through this. That's weird. I was able to cut through the other queue, but not this one. I guess we're going through the whole queue. And then I also don't remember what keys to ride. This actually comes a little too close to the queue, so I should probably add another graded fence here. Anyways. E to ride? Click to ride? F to ride? Apparently none of those. Is it not working? What the fuck is going on with this ride right now? Of course, now it's working. God damn it. Oh, right, because the person took a break, even though I've turned the brakes off. Literally, like, sandbox settings. Staff settings. Off. Brakes. Off. That kind of shit is really irritating in this game. But yeah, I'll go ahead and take a ride on this. Speed this up here. But yeah, it's just simple Vekoma roller skater. Not much to it. We just passed. I did add a fake transfer track with a little maintenance shed. But yeah, there's a couple little jolts in this. It was the first coaster I made with the coaster creator. I used the smoothing tool, but it doesn't seem to have it completely smoothed a couple of spots, and I wasn't able to fix it. And it's very slight, and you probably wouldn't notice it if I didn't pick it out. It's right about here. Yeah, I guess I got a little joltier. I don't know. Actually, maybe that wasn't as jolty as I was thinking. Part of that was just me having bad shaping. But there's like a little camera jolt. I don't know. I didn't really notice at that time. But maybe it's because I wasn't using bumper cam. But yeah. So there we have this little area. Added a little castle turret. Didn't want to go too over the top. Because again, this isn't that kind of park. But honestly, it's probably more themed than, like, say, a modern Cedar Fair park would do, which was what I was originally going for, so I probably went a little overboard. But whatever. So that is... Oh, I guess there's also this little building here, which is just a balloon shop and a bathroom. Again, there's a couple backstage areas in this, which were meant for break rooms, which aren't really going to be used anymore because this is no longer a franchise park. But yeah, so that's the Kiddy Kingdom, first area I built here. We'll head back to the entry area so we can go to the second area, which I'm still technically working on, but it's about 85, 90% of the way there. Switch back to first person here. This area I'm calling Memory Lane. This would be an opening day area of the park, which hasn't seen much change, as you could tell, because it just has... It has, like, just asphalt paths, which is something that a lot of old parks you'll notice a lot that were built around this era. We have the star attraction here, which is Hot Rod, an aerodynamics looping coaster. We'll take a ride on it in a second. Its queue line is attached here because originally I had the train station and train lined up to go through that corkscrew right there. And I couldn't squeeze the queue anywhere else. But honestly, I didn't like the look of it. It kind of just seemed like a mess with too many things interacting with this ride over the top of each other. So I ended up moving it away. The queue line will be redone later because I also need to add a few custom supports to this ride. But the game doesn't have roller coaster custom supports at the moment. I did custom support the lift hill and turnaround to be more like an aero coaster, which is more boxy. But the loop and corkscrews need a couple extra supports on them. And I'll probably redo the queue at that point, because eventually I'm going to want the queue to go hook up over there. Realizing I'm entering the land before I've really talked about it. So this is sort of a 50s area, is kind of what I'm going for. Simple toilet block building here. This thing was a pain in the ass to make. I feel like I just really need some more trim options. Particularly things that go with round buildings. And we need more awning options, because this is like the only awning that doesn't have a fake company logo attached to it. And you have to make it all the same color in order for it to work, because otherwise it has the Planet Coaster logo attached to it. Here we have the Galaxy Theater, which doesn't do anything. It actually serves as a staff break room and stuff, but that's not needed anymore because I got out of sandbox mode. Honestly, I wasn't sure what... It would be a stage show. I wasn't sure what to call it. And then I realized my only poster options were sea-based, so I just called it Enchantment Under the Sea, which is a nod to the dance theme in Back to the Future. We have over here the Ragin' Roadsters, which is just bumper cars. Didn't theme the building at all, because one, it's an older attraction, and two, the theme that it has right now already kind of has that sort of 50s-ish, really probably early 30s-ish instead, but I'll just say it's 50s-ish theme to it. Again, this will be the actual entrance for Hot Rod once everything is built up. We'll go back and write it in a sec. And back here we have the Dine and Dash Diner. I will say when I was building this last night, I didn't like the look of it, but coming back to it today, I think I like it a little more than I did when I left it last night. It is my first instance of attaching a scenery piece to the moving scenery thing, so the sign actually rotates up there. And then to the left, we have the Twist and Shout, which I'm just now realizing 3 of the things here have an in apostrophe as an abbreviation, so I should probably rename one of them so that it's not too repetitive. In my headcanon, this is kind of one of those rides where I talked about there being a sort of 90s, 2000s ownership takeover, where they kind of just installed random crap that didn't really belong. The name kind of fits the area, but it has... I tried to make this sign sort of like the most 2000s-ish, late 90s thing that I could. So it's just like weird colors and letters and shit. The queue line is literally just umbrellas. And it's a cattle pen queue. Doesn't even line up with the path here. Eventually there'll be a building right there, which will be in theme. But yeah, the idea is that it would have replaced some older ride with a thrill ride that doesn't really fit the area, but it was the 90s and the owners didn't really care. And so let's just go ahead and run over here to the Hot Rod roller coaster. Now, this ride was interesting to build because I really wanted to replicate the aerodynamic style, and aerodynamics didn't use computers to build their rides. So and they had like very set shaping on their ride elements. And so to replicate that, I tried to use the smoothing tool as little as I possibly could. Just missed the train here. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a ride here. Hopefully, good. We'll catch this. We missed the turnaround, but you didn't really miss much. But anyways, aerodynamics built most of their rides without native computers and computer designing. And so you just have some weird ass banking and shit. Actually, I'm going to switch to bumper because I don't want the hands and stuff getting in the way. So, like, you kind of bank before you drop, and it's not like all one smooth motion. The drop is like straight track. The loop's diameter like suddenly gets tighter halfway through. All this is kind of the typical aerodynamic stuff. I forgot to turn off the UI. You're way overbanked going into the corkscrews. I actually had to make the first half of the first corkscrew myself because you can't bank going into the pre-built corkscrews. That's kind of the ride there. You can't bank at this spot in the pre-made corkscrews, so I actually had to make the first half of the corkscrew myself to really get that aerodynamics, like, this is way overbanked and doesn't make any sense entry into the corkscrews. Just one of those details that I just really feel like makes an aero coaster an aero coaster. And then up here is where it transitions into the pre-built piece. And so I'm quite proud of that, because if you look at it from this angle, you really can't tell that I made this half and then Frontier made the rest of that. It really just all looks like a continuous motion thing. And watch the ride go through the corkscrews. But yeah, that is Squadaland so far. My plan next is to go ahead and add a shop here to round out the 50s area, leaving the decorating of this until I get custom supports in the update in December 1st. And then I'll reroute this queue over, so you will queue up underneath this second corkscrew with the path going through the first corkscrew. And eventually the idea is to kind of, what's next for this part, there will be a sort of, I don't want to call it Wild West, more like Pacific Northwest-ish? I don't know. Like a nature trail sort of area that's more like a California national park than an actual like Wild West theme. Probably have a river rapids, a mine train, and a B&M invert, along with a couple other rides. Over here is going to be a giant lake. I'm actually considering renaming the park Squadaland Lake and saying it's the name of the lake. And so it'll be a largely unthemed or lightly themed area over here, which the idea is that it was also an opening day area and it was largely untouched. Whereas this area that I was just talking about, which is going to be your sort of national park thing, was an opening day area, but it's undergone a few changes over the years. The back of the park connecting here, my idea was to have the county fair, because it feels like every park of this era decided to have a county fair theme, and it's always the worst part of the park to walk through, because it's always just like an asphalt jungle piece of shit. I'm going to try and make it not overly that, but we'll see. It's largely just going to be a hodgepodge collection of rides and a place for a big wooden roller coaster to go along the back of the park over here. And then I also kind of want to have one or two other lands. I'm not sure. The idea is that those will be much newer areas. Maybe a tropical area with a surf coaster. or a future area with a B&M Giga Coaster or Hyper Coaster. We'll see how big I want to make it. This park probably wouldn't sustain a Giga Coaster, but whatever. Or a multi-launch or something like that. Actually, I actually just ended the recordings. I'm probably going to go back and edit. Throw this in here randomly, so it's going to be a little jarring. I realized I forgot to show the park at night, so let's do that. Because I have been making sure to light it as I go, except for these areas, because I'm not really fully done. Very simple lighting in the entry area. Not much to talk about. I did actually attach a couple spotlights to the top of the observation towers thing, so as it spins around, you can kind of see the white and then the blue. Kind of went with the typical red, white, and blue America rah-rah bullshit that these parks usually have. Carousel, not much going on besides a few of these bulbs. I really wish we had popcorn bulbs that weren't, like, I guess actual popcorn bulbs instead of just light bulbs hanging down from string. Because I feel like that would really make this pop, having those along here. The lighting in the Kiddy Kingdom's a little too dark, because I really wanted to use these lanterns, but they kind of don't light up much. But whatever, I'm keeping it as is. You can see the way too bright fluorescent lights of the old Kingdom Railway Station there. One thing I've noticed about this game, which is kind of irritating, is it seems like spotlights don't turn off during the day. I don't know if that's a glitch or not. I have lit up the roller coaster. Originally, that tower back there was lit up as well, but it looked terrible during the day, so I kind of removed it because the spotlights just looked weird. Maybe I'll see if there's another set of lights that actually turn off during the day that I could use. But yeah, so that is that area. The real reason I want to show this at night, though, first of all, if we look at Hot Rod Station, we have sort of red fake neon around the top of it and some lighting out the front, which looks nice. But what I really love how it turned out is this theater here. The theater itself's a little plain, not a huge fan of it, but I also didn't want to go too overboard. But I think this sign up here, and particular this marquee here, I think really, really, really looks like right. I made sure to size the letters so that they were the perfect size, so these lines are like the things that you slot those like letters into. I think it looks really fucking good, honestly. That's not really themed. The diner has a little bit of neon. Honestly, putting neon on round stuff sucks so much that I just didn't want to do it for a ton of that diner. And then this thing just has a couple random colored lights on the sign. Not much going on there. So yeah, not a ton going on at night here, but I really just wanted to show off that theater. And so yeah, that will do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching if you have made it this far. Don't know if I'm going to... Oops, apparently double-clicking turns that UI back on. I don't know if I'm really going to do videos of this park. Too many of these while it's in progress. I might just show off the other one. But I kind of just wanted to make this quick one to show what I was working on and give my impressions. And by impressions of the game, I mean complain about the fucking management side because it sucks. And complain a little bit about the path tool because, boy, you really have to use the edit mode a lot. Like, okay, I need to complain a little bit more. Like, I know this area, I'm really appreciative that I can make something like this with the path tool. I think it looks really nice and stuff. I really wish that I didn't have to spend, like, frickin' 10 minutes trying to make this basic cattle pin queue. That still looks wrong because I still can't drag these pieces anymore because it's, like, glued to the side of the ride now. Like, that is, like, the most basic amusement park thing you can possibly have in your park, and for some reason I just can't do it. And it irritates the shit out of me that that's not something they thought of. Also, I just realized when I was complaining about popcorn bulbs earlier, I did use those other bulbs and kind of sink them in to fake it over here, but it's nice if I didn't have to fake it. But yeah, enough of that scatterbrained rant. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you some other time. Bye.